Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive today where we're going to be exploring the core of some really fascinating Buddhist teachings
Yes.
about attaining awakening and achieving some peace,
Yeah.
not in like a mystical sense, but like right here
Mm-hmm.
in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And we'll be looking at practical techniques for kind of bringing that into the everyday.
Exactly. And that's what's so wonderful about these teachings. They're
Yeah.
really offering practical wisdom for
Yeah.
how we navigate life as human beings.
And today we're going to be looking at three key concepts.
Yes.
The Six Paramitas,
Yeah.
which you can kind of think of as signposts on the road to a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at the 7 factors of awakening, which are these qualities that we can cultivate to experience a bit more peace and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the 12 links of interdependent co-arising,
Yeah.
which kind of shows us how interconnected everything really is.
And how that understanding can be so liberating.
Right. It's like seeing the world with new eyes.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the 6 Paramitas.
Okay.
I have to admit the word perfections makes me a little nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean we have to be perfect in some unattainable way?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's not about being perfect in a kind of rigid sense,
Right.
but really think of them more as guidelines
Oh.
for cultivating qualities that lead to a more awakened and compassionate life. And it's not about reaching some static state
Right.
of perfection, but rather it's a process of constantly cultivating these qualities within ourselves.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly, a journey.
Yeah.
And that journey begins with Dana Paramita,
Okay.
the perfection of giving.
Giving, okay.
And what's so fascinating about this is that true giving goes beyond just material possessions.
Right.
It's about offering our presence, our stability, even a sense of freshness to those around us.
Like that image of a plant that grows back stronger
Yes.
every time you cut it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. What are some of the most precious gifts that you've received in your life?
Yeah.
Were they always material things?
Right.
Or was it sometimes someone's undivided attention, a sense of truly being seen and heard?
You're so right. And it reminds me of that story Thich Nhat Hanh told about
yes.
the boy who just wanted his father's presence as a birthday gift.
Yeah.
Even though the father's very wealthy and,
Yeah.
could give all these
It's a little.
material things.
Yeah.
He just wanted his time.
His presence.
Yeah. And it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most valuable gifts
Yeah.
are those that can't be bought.
Absolutely. And that's the essence of Dana. It's not just about what we give, but the spirit
Yeah.
in which we give it.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a sense of generosity that flows outward
Right.
from a heart filled with love and compassion.
Speaking of cultivating wholesome qualities,
Yes.
next on the list is Shila Paramita,
Yes.
the perfection of mindfulness trainings.
Mindfulness trainings.
This is where those 5 mindfulness trainings come in, right?
Yes, exactly.
The ones about protecting life,
Mm-hmm.
practicing generosity,
Yes.
cultivating responsible sexual conduct,
Right.
speaking truthfully and taking care of our health.
Exactly. And these trainings really act as guidelines for ethical living.
Okay.
And it's not just a set of rules to follow blindly,
Right.
but rather principles to embody with heart and understanding.
So to really embody them.
Yes, and they're not unique to Buddhism. You know,
Right.
you'll find similar ethical principles in many spiritual traditions.
Because ultimately, we all benefit
Absolutely.
when we try to live in a way that doesn't harm ourselves or others.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And these trainings help us do just that.
Yeah.
Now, this next one is particularly powerful,
Right.
Shanti Paramita, the perfection of inclusiveness.
Inclusiveness.
And it's about learning to embrace and transform suffering
Mm-hmm.
rather than simply enduring it.
Mm.
Like, imagine a vast river
Okay.
that can absorb a handful of salt without its waters becoming undrinkable.
That's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
So it's about developing a kind of resilience, a capacity to hold difficult experiences without being overwhelmed by them.
Exactly. And this resilience comes from cultivating a big heart.
Right.
One that's open and spacious enough to embrace the full spectrum of human experience, including suffering.
Yeah.
It's about choosing to meet life's challenges with courage and compassion rather than resentment or bitterness.
What about Virya Paramita?
Yes.
That's the perfection of diligence, right?
Yes, diligence is often associated with effort,
Right.
but it's not about pushing ourselves relentlessly or striving for some external measure of success.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing and nurturing the positive seeds within us.
So the good qualities.
Exactly. Those
Yeah.
qualities that lead to growth and well-being. It's about showing up for our lives with presence and purpose.
So it's less about gritting our teeth and powering through, and more about finding that sustainable rhythm of practice.
Yes, exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between effort and ease.
Right.
And remember, even simply being present in this moment is a form of practice.
Yeah, okay.
And that brings us to dhyana paramita, the perfection of meditation.
Okay.
Now, before you think this is about sitting on a cushion and emptying your mind.
Which is something I've always struggled with.
Right. Well, meditation isn't about escaping reality.
Okay.
But about engaging with it more fully.
So being present.
Yes. It's about learning to quiet the chatter of the mind so that we can touch the depths of our being and experience the present moment more fully.
So it's about coming home to ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that coming home, we begin to cultivate prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom.
Wisdom.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Wisdom, in this sense, isn't about accumulating knowledge, but about seeing through the illusions that cloud our perception of reality.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Like that analogy of the wave and the water.
Exactly.
Ultimately, they're one, not separate.
Yes. It's about seeing beyond the surface level of things.
Yeah.
And recognizing that underlying unity that connects us all.
So we've journeyed through these 6 paramitas,
We have.
these signposts, on the path to a more awakened life.
Yes,
And it strikes me that they're all kind of interwoven.
they are.
Cultivating one naturally supports the others.
You're absolutely right. They're like threads in a tapestry,
Okay.
each one essential to the overall design.
Yeah.
But cultivating these qualities isn't just some abstract pursuit.
Right.
It has a profound impact on how we experience our lives and how we relate to the world around us.
That's a great point. So the 6 paramitas offer us this roadmap,
Yes,
but how do we actually start walking the path?
that's a great question.
How do we actually get on the road?
Yeah, and that's where those 7 factors of awakening come in.
Okay.
They offer us insights into how we can cultivate those qualities that lead to greater peace, freedom, and joy.
All right, so we're going to dive into those after a
Yeah.
short break. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back. So before the break, we were talking about the 6 paramitas.
Right, those guideposts for living a more awakened life.
Exactly. And now let's turn to the 7 factors of awakening.
Okay.
These are qualities that we can all cultivate to help us to really wake up to the fullness of our being.
You know, that phrase, waking up, has always kind of intrigued me.
Mm-hmm.
What does it actually mean?
Yeah.
Is it about becoming some kind of superhuman
Right.
with mystical powers?
Yeah, that's a common misconception, you know?
Right.
In Buddhism, awakening is less about supernatural abilities
Yeah.
and more about revealing the clarity, the wisdom, the compassion that's already within us.
Okay.
It's a process of uncovering, of recognizing our true nature.
So it's about realizing our full potential for peace, for joy, for connection.
Exactly. And the 7 factors of awakening offer us a path for doing just that.
Okay.
The first factor is mindfulness, or smriti,
Okay.
remembering to be present.
In our actions and interactions.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how easily our minds get caught up
Oh, yeah.
in worries about the future or regrets about the past?
Absolutely. It's like my mind is a runaway train sometimes.
Mindfulness is about gently stepping off that train and coming back to the present moment.
Yeah.
Even just a few seconds of mindful breathing
Right.
can make a world of difference.
It's about creating that pause, that space for awareness.
Precisely. And from that space of awareness, we can begin to investigate phenomena more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second factor, Dharma Pravachaya.
Dharma Pravachaya. Okay.
It's about looking at the world with fresh eyes, with curiosity, allowing things to reveal themselves without imposing our preconceived notions.
It's like that analogy of the bud and the leaf.
Yes.
How a tiny bud contains the potential of a whole tree.
Beautiful.
It reminds us that everything's interconnected and constantly changing.
Yes, and that understanding can be deeply liberating.
Because when we recognize the impermanence of all things,
Yeah.
we're less likely to cling tightly to them,
Right.
to get caught up in our desires and aversions.
Okay.
Which brings us to the third factor, virya, or energy.
I thought we were talking about awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that involve a lot of sitting still and meditating?
Yeah.
Where does energy come into play?
It might surprise you, but energy is essential for awakening.
Okay.
But this isn't the kind of energy that comes from caffeine
Right.
or forcing ourselves to push through exhaustion.
Okay.
True energy arises from connecting to a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in our lives.
So it's about aligning ourselves with something larger than ourselves.
Yes. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how energized you feel
Oh, yeah.
when you're engaged in something you truly care about?
Absolutely. It's like time melts away.
Yes.
And you're completely absorbed in the moment.
Exactly. That's the kind of energy that fuels the path to awakening.
Okay.
And it's closely intertwined with the next factor, prashrabdhi, or ease. In our culture, that constantly glorifies busyness and productivity.
Yeah.
Rest is often seen as a luxury.
Right.
Even a sign of weakness.
Okay.
But true ease is essential for well-being.
It's about finding that balance between effort and relaxation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we allow ourselves to rest, to replenish our energy, something remarkable happens. Joy begins to arise naturally.
Okay.
That's the fifth factor of awakening pretty, or joy.
Joy.
And not the fleeting kind of happiness that comes from external circumstances,
Okay.
but a deep and abiding sense of peace and well-being that emanates from within.
It's like we've been searching for joy in all the wrong places.
Yes.
When it's been within us all along.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And the more we cultivate these first 5 factors,
Okay.
mindfulness, investigation, energy, ease, and joy, the more the 6th factor, samadhi or concentration, naturally arises.
I've always struggled with concentration, especially during meditation. My mind just wants to race from one thought to the next.
It's important to understand that concentration isn't about forcing our minds to be still.
Okay.
It's about gently guiding our attention back to the present moment.
Right.
Again and again.
Okay.
As we cultivate mindfulness and the other factors, our minds naturally become more focused.
Like a muscle that gets stronger with practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that increased focus allows us to cultivate the final factor, upeksha.
Upeksha. Okay.
Which can be translated as equanimity or letting go.
Okay, letting go.
Now, this doesn't mean we become indifferent to the world or numb to the suffering around us.
So it's not about suppressing our emotions.
Exactly.
Or pretending that everything is okay when it's not.
Not at all. Equanimity is about cultivating a balanced and compassionate heart that can hold both joy and sorrow, both love and grief. It's about recognizing that all experiences are impermanent.
Right.
And allowing them to flow through us without clinging or aversion.
So we've explored the 6 Paramitas, those signposts on the path to awakening.
Yes.
And now we've delved into the 7 factors of awakening, qualities that can truly transform how we experience life.
Absolutely.
But how do all these teachings connect to the world around us?
That's where the 12 links of interdependent co-arising come in.
Okay, yeah.
A profound teaching that reveals the interconnected nature of reality.
I'm ready to see how all these strands are woven together.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so we've explored these incredible concepts, the 6 Paramitas, those guideposts for living a more awakened life, and now we're about to unravel the 12 links of interdependent co-arising.
Yes.
I'm ready to dive in and see how everything connects.
It's a profound teaching that reveals how deeply interconnected everything truly is, how our actions and our thoughts and our experiences are all woven together in this complex web of cause and effect.
And I'm guessing that understanding this web can help us to create more peace and harmony in our own lives.
Exactly. But first, we need to kind of understand how suffering arises. And the 12 links offer a framework for seeing this process unfold.
Okay.
The first link is avidya, or ignorance.
Okay, ignorance.
And this doesn't mean that we're, stupid or unintelligent.
Okay.
It simply means that we're unaware of the true nature of reality.
Okay.
We're blinded by our own perceptions and our conditioned beliefs.
So it's like we're looking at the world through a distorted lens.
Yes, and from this ignorance arise samskara, or volitional actions.
Okay.
Our habits, our impulses, our karmic formations. These actions, driven by our ignorance, shape our experiences and create the conditions for future suffering.
It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering momentum as it goes.
A perfect analogy. Now, the third link is vijnana, or consciousness.
Consciousness.
And this refers to kind of the entirety of our conscious experience, individual and collective, which is colored by the ignorance and the volitional actions that came before.
So our consciousness is already influenced by these patterns
Exactly.
of ignorance and habitual reactions.
Precisely. And this consciousness gives rise to nama rupa, or mind and body, the fourth link. This is kind of the manifestation of our being in the world,
Okay.
shaped by the forces that came before.
It's like the blueprint for our individual experience.
From mind and body arise the six sense organs and their corresponding objects.
Okay.
The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind,
Right.
known as the ayatana, the fifth link.
So now we have the capacity to experience the world through our senses.
And when these sense organs come into contact with their objects, that's sparsha or contact. The sixth link, from this contact arise vedana or feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. The seventh link.
This is where things start to get really personal. Right?
Yeah.
How we experience the world through our senses directly impacts how we feel.
Exactly. And from these feelings can arise trishna or craving, the eighth link. This is that thirst for more of what feels good.
Yeah.
Or an aversion to what feels unpleasant.
That feeling of, I want more, or get me out of here.
Exactly. And this craving leads to upadana, or grasping. The ninth link. We cling tightly to what we desire, trying to hold on to fleeting experiences.
Yeah.
Or we desperately try to push away what we dislike.
But we all know that clinging only creates more suffering.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Right.
The more we cling, the more we suffer.
Yeah.
And this grasping leads to bhava, or becoming, 10th link. Our experiences solidify into patterns that shape our future.
So our actions kind of create the conditions for future experiences.
Exactly.
Which in turn shape our future actions.
Exactly. And this cycle continues with jati, or birth, the 11th link, and ultimately leads to jara marana, old age, and death, the 12th link.
So we've journeyed through these 12 links.
We have.
And seen how suffering arises from ignorance, giving rise to craving, clinging.
Yeah.
And ultimately death.
Yes.
Feels kind of heavy.
It can feel that way, especially if we only focus on the surface level of this teaching.
Okay.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The 12 links are also said to be empty.
Empty. It sounds a bit nihilistic.
Not at all.
Okay.
Emptiness in this sense doesn't mean nothingness.
Okay.
It points to the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
Each link is dependent on all the others for its existence.
Right.
If we remove even one link, the entire chain collapses.
So there's no independent self or essence to any of these links.
Exactly.
They only exist in relationship to each other.
Precisely. And this understanding has profound implications for how we live our lives.
Okay.
First, it allows us to let go of blame.
Right.
If everything arises interdependently, then it becomes impossible to point the finger at any one person or event as the sole cause of suffering.
It's a humbling realization.
It is, and it naturally leads to greater compassion.
Okay.
When we see how interconnected we are, how our actions ripple out and affect others, we're more likely to act with kindness and understanding.
Right.
But here's the most empowering part. This understanding also opens the door to transformation.
So it's not just about seeing how suffering arises, but about understanding how we can break free from the cycle.
Exactly. Remember the 6 paramitas and the 7 factors of awakening that we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
Those are the tools that we can use to transform each link in the chain.
So instead of ignorance, we can cultivate wisdom and understanding.
Yes.
Instead of craving, we can cultivate contentment and generosity.
Exactly.
Instead of clinging, we can practice letting go.
Precisely. And when we transform these links, we transform the entire chain,
Wow.
creating the conditions for greater peace, freedom, and joy.
Yeah.
Not just for ourselves, but for all beings.
So it's not about escaping the cycle of life and death, but about transforming our relationship to it.
Exactly. And remember that question that we posed earlier? How can we create a small paradise in our own lives, even amidst the hells of the world?
Right.
That's the invitation of the 12 links.
Yeah.
To recognize our interconnectedness, to cultivate wholesome qualities, and to transform suffering into peace.
It's a profound teaching that offers a path forward.
Yes.
A way to live with greater wisdom and compassion.
It is.
Well, thank you for sharing these insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, may this deep dive into Buddhist teachings inspire you to cultivate your own small paradise right here, right now.